You know what time it is? Woo! Get into it! Get into it! Yes! We're back! We're back, happy people. Hello, everybody. So we are back with another episode of Storytime with Chris. Like I said, you don't have to watch these videos when they go live. You're more than welcome to watch them in your downtime, nap time, max, relaxing, chillaxing time, study time, break time, in between time, CP time, anytime that you want to hear a highly animated voice bring you wonderful stories of magic, fantasy, science fiction, adventure, and many, many more in between. Hey! Hi, my friend. I hope you're doing really well. I really do. I miss you. As I always try to say, for those who are new to this, I will get comments in the middle of these or people that are showing I'm watching, and I will try to do my best to acknowledge those as quickly as I can. But I don't own the music that you're listening to in the background. And it's my favorite day of the week. It is my favorite day of the week because I was born on a Wednesday, and from as young as I can remember, something good always happens to me and the people around me on a Wednesday. I went to go work out earlier this morning, and then I came home and made brunch, and then had therapy at 1 o'clock, which went really well. In this particular channel and in this household, mental health is important. The discussion of mental health in the most, what's the word I'm looking for? The most calm and respectful way possible to express it is what we do here. There is no judgment in my household. There is unconditional love. And people, young and old, your mental health and your struggles are greatly important. Whether you journal, whether you have a support system, whether you have a friend to talk to, a confidant, or a book to read that makes you feel better when you have those bad days, or anything, there is no judgment here. And I love my mental health journey because it allows me to be bright and wonderful and happy for you all. Genuinely. So, yeah. All right. Now we are back. And Taran had made a stop over to the marshes of Morva to meet with Ordu, Orgok, and Orwin. And Ordu gave him a hint. He didn't really come with anything to bargain, to trade. And so they sent him on his way, but they're like, oh no, the Mirror of Lunette probably could give you the answer that you're seeking of who your parents are and where you come from. And they're powerful witches, like they're enchantresses. They're more powerful than Dalbin, so technically they should have the means to tell them. But there's a reason why they don't tell them. And we're going to continue the journey and find out what happens next. Chapter 2, Cantreve Cataphor. The two companions left the marshes of Morva, pressing southeastward to the valley Cantreves along the Yestrad River, for Taran had decided to break his journey at Caer Cadarn, fortress of King Smoit, and asked the red-bearded king to refit them with gear sturdier than what they had brought from Caer Dalbin. From there, Taran told Gurgi, we can only search as the moment guides us. My poor tender head is full of questions, he sighed, with a wry and regretful smile, but of plans, alas, none at all. With the marshes many days behind, the two companions crossed the borders of Cataphor, Smoit's realm and largest of the valley Cantreves. The countryside had long since changed from grey moors to green meadows and pleasantly wooded lands with farmholds nestled in the clearings, though Gurgi eyed the dells longingly, sniffing the smoke of cook fires wafting from the cottage chimneys. Taran did not turn from the path he had chosen. By keeping a brisk pace, another 3 days of travel would bring them to Caer Cadarn. A little before sundown, seeing the clouds growing heavy and dark, Taran halted to find shelter in a pine grove, which, by the way, kids, a cantreve is to describe a fortress or a castle, basically. That's what a cantreve is. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but a cantreve, to my understanding, is a fortress or a castle town that is populated by nobility, royalty, and the local gentry and so on. He had scarcely dismounted, and Gurgi had only begun to unlash the saddlebags when a band of horsemen cantered into the grove. Taran spun around and drew his blade. Gurgi, yelping in alarm, scurried to his master's side. There were 5 riders, well mounted and armed, their rough, bearded faces sun-blackened, their bearing that of men long used to the saddle. Their colors they wore were not those of the house of Smoit, and Taran guessed the horsemen to be warriors in the service of one of Smoit's liegemen. "Put up your blade," commanded the leading rider, nevertheless drawing his own, reining up before the wayfarers and glancing scornfully at them. "Who are you, and who do you serve?" "They're outlaws," cried another. "Strike them down." "They look more like scarecrows than outlaws," replied the leader. "I take them for a pair of curls who have run away from their master." Taran lowered his sword, but did not sheath it. "I am Taran, assistant pigkeeper." "Where then are your pigs?" cried the first rider with a coarse laugh. "And why are you not at keeping them?" He gestured with a thumb toward Gurgi. "Or will you tell me this sorry thing is one of your charges?"
"He is no piggy," indignantly retorted Gurgi. "No piggy at all. He is Gurgi, bold and clever to serve kind master."
The creature's outburst brought only more laughter from the horsemen. But now the first rider spied Melalas. "Your steed is above your station, pigkeeper," he said. "How do you come by it?" "Melalas is mine by right," Taran replied sharply. "A gift of Gwydion, Prince of Dawn." "Lord Gwydion!" cried the warrior. "Given? Stolen from him, rather," he jeered. "Have a care, your lies will cost you a beating." "I tell you no lie, and I seek no quarrel," Taran answered. "We journey in peace to King Smoit's castle." "Smoit needs no pigkeeper," one of the warriors broke in. "Nor do we," said the first rider. He swung around to his fellows. "What say you? Shall we take his horse or his head, or both?" "Lord Gorion will welcome a fresh mount and reward us all the more for this one," answered a rider. "But the head of a pigkeeper serves no use, not even to himself." "Well said, and so be it," cried the warrior. "Besides, he can better mind his pigs afoot," he added, reaching for the stallion's bridle. Taran sprang between Melalas and the horseman. Gurgi leapt forward and furiously grappled the rider's leg. The other warriors spurred their mounts, and Taran found himself in the midst of rearing horses driven from the side of his own steed. He fought to drive up his sword. One of the warriors wheeled and drove his mount's flank heavily against Taran, who lost his footing. At the same instant, another of his assailants fetched him a blow that would surely have cost Taran his head had the warrior not struck with the flat of his sword. As it was, Taran fell stunned to the ground, his ears ringing, thoughts spinning, and the horsemen seeming to burst into comets before his eyes. He was dimly aware of Gurgi frantically yelling, of Melalas whinnying, and it seemed to him that another figure had joined the fray. By the time he could stagger to his feet, the horseman had vanished, dragging Melalas with him. Taran, crying out in dismay and anger, stumbled toward the path they had taken. A broad hand grasped his shoulder. He turned abruptly to see a man in a sleeveless jacket of coarse wool girt with a plaited rope. His bare arms were knotted and sinewy, and his back bent, though less by years than by labor. A shock of gray and cropped hair hung about a face that was stern but not unkind. "Hold, hold," the man said. "You will not overtake them now. Your horse will come to no ill. The henchmen of Lord Gorion treat steeds better than strangers." He patted the oaken staff he carried. "2 of Gorion's border band will have heads to mend. But so will you, from the look of you." He picked up a sack and slung it over his shoulder. "I am Aden, son of Aed," he said. Well, Aden, son of Aed. Yeah, so Aeddan. Aiden. A Welsh, I would assume a Welsh version of the name Aiden, like Aiden. Aiden, okay. "Without Melalas, my quest will fail," Taran cried. "I must find—" He stopped short. The warrior's mockery still rankled him, and he was reluctant to tell more than need be, even to this man who had befriended him. But the farmer showed no interest in questioning him. "What you seek," replied Aiden, "is more your business than mine. I saw 5 set upon 2 and only put some fairness in the match. Will you heal your hurt? Then follow me." So saying, the farmer set off down the hillside. Taran and Gurgi behind him. Gurgi turned often to shake his fist in the direction of the departed horseman, while Taran trudged along the darkening path, speaking not a word, deep in despair over Melonlass, and thinking bitterly that in his quest he had done no more than lose his horse and gain a broken head. His bones ached, his muscles throbbed. To worsen matters, the clouds had thickened. Nightfall brought a pelting rain, and by the time he reached Aiden's farmhold, Taran was as drenched and bedraggled as ever he had been in all his life. The dwelling into which Aiden led the companions was only a hut of wattle and daub, but Taran was surprised at its snugness and neat furnishings. Never before in all his adventures had he shared hospitality with the farmer folk of Prydain. Then he glanced around as wondering as a stranger in a new land. Now that he could look more closely at Aiden, he sensed honesty and good nature in the farmer's weathered face. The farmer gave him a warm grin, and Taran, despite the smart of his wounds, grinned back, feeling indeed that he had come upon a friend. The farm wife, a tall, work-hardened woman with features as lined as her husband's, threw up her hands at the sight of Gurgi, whose dripping, matted hair had gathered a blanket of twigs and pine needles, and cried out at Taran's blood-smeared face. While Aiden told of the fray, the woman Alarka opened a wooden chest and drew out a sturdy, warm jacket, well worn but lovingly mended, when Taran gratefully took in place of his own sodden garment. Alarka set about mixing a potion of healing herbs, and Aidan meantime poured onto a table the contents of a sack, hunches of bread and cheese and some dried fruit. "You come to small comfort," he said. "My land yields little, so I toil part of my days in my neighbors' fields to earn what I cannot grow." "And yet," Taran said, dismayed to learn Aidan's plight, "I have heard it told that there was rich soil in the valley Cantreves." "Was indeed," replied Aidan with a dour laugh, "in the time of my forefathers. But in mine, as the hill Cantreves were famed for their long-fleeced sheep, so the valley Cantreves of Yestrad were known far and wide for the finest oats and barley, and Cantreve Cataphor itself for wheat bright and heavy as gold, and golden days there must have been in all Prydain." Aidan went on, cutting the bread and cheese into portions and handing them to Taran and Gurgi. "My father's father told a tale already old when it was told, of plows that worked of themselves, of scythes that reaped a harvest without even the touch of a man's hand." "So too have I heard," Taran said, "but Aurora and Deathlord stole those treasures, and now they lie unused and hidden deep in the fastness of Anuvin." The farmer nodded. "Auroran's hand chokes the life from Prydain, his shadow blights the land. Our toil grows heavier, and all the more because our skills are fewer. Enchanted tools did Auroran steal? Many secrets there were of making the earth yield richly, and of these, too, the Lord of Anuvin robbed us." "Twice in 2 years have my crops failed," Aidan went on, as Taran listened with heartfelt concern. "My granary is empty, and the more I must toil for others, the less I may work my own fields. Even so, my knowledge is too slight. What I most need is locked forever in the treasure hoard of Anuvin." "It is not altogether your skill that lacks," Alarka said, putting a hand on the farmer's knotted shoulder. "Before the first planting, the plow, axe, and cow sickened and died. And the second," her voice lowered, "for the second we were without the help of Amren." Taran glanced questioningly at the woman, whose eyes had clouded. She said, "Amren, our son, he was of your years, and it is his jacket you wear. He needs it no longer. Winter and summer are alike to him. He sleeps under a burial mound among other fallen warriors. Yes, he is gone," the woman added. "He rode with the battle host when they fought off raiders who sought to plunder us." "I share your sorrow," Taran said, then to console her added, "But he died with honor. Your son is a hero." "My son is slain," the woman answered sharply. "The raiders fought because they were starving, we because we had scarcely more than they, and at the end all had less than they had begun. Now for us the labor is too great for one pair of hands, even for two. The secrets Aurora and Deathlord stole could well serve us. Alas, we cannot regain them." No matter what, even without the secrets, my harvest will not fail this year, Adan said. All save one of my fields lies fallow, but in this one, excuse me, have I spent all my toil. I am so sorry, I did not mean to burp. I'm so sorry, y'all. He looked proudly at Taran. When my wife and I could no longer pull the plow ourselves, I broke the earth with my own hands and sowed it grain by grain. The farmer laughed. Yes, and weeded it blade by blade, as neither as a grain drain with our favorite patch of herbs. It will not fail. Indeed, it must not, he added, frowning. This season our livelihood hangs on it. Little more was said, and when the meager meal ended, Taran gladly stretched his aching bones beside the hearth, while Gurgi curled up next to him. Weariness overcame even his despair for Melalas, and with the patter of rain on the thatch and the hiss of the dying embers, Taran soon fell asleep. The companions woke before first light, but Taran found Adan already working in his field. The rain had stopped, leaving the earth fresh and moist. Taran knelt and took up a handful. Adan had spoken the truth. The soil had been tilled with utmost pains, and Taran watched the farmer with growing respect and admiration. The farm could indeed yield richly, and Taran stood a moment looking toward the fallow ground, barren for lack of hands to labor it. With a sigh, he turned quickly away, his thoughts once more on Melalas. How he might regain the silver-maned stallion Taran could not foresee, but he had determined to make his way to the stronghold of Lord Goryan, where, in Adan's judgment, the warriors had surely taken the animal. Though more than ever anxious over his beloved steed, Taran worked through the morning beside Adan. The farm couple had been scarcely a morsel of the evening's fare for themselves, and Taran saw no other means to repay them. By midday, however, he dared delay no longer, and made ready to take his leave. A lark had come to the door of the hut, like her husband. The woman had asked nothing beyond what little Taran had chosen to tell of his quest, but now she said, "Will you still follow your own path? Have you turned from home and kinsmen? What mother's heart longs for her own son, as I long for mine?" "Alas, none that I know," Taran answered, folding Amaran's jacket and gently putting it in her hands, "and none that knows me." Excuse me. "You have been well taught in the ways of farming," Adan said. "If you seek a place of welcome, you have already found one." "Whatever other welcomes I find, may they be as open-hearted as yours," Taran replied, and it was not without regret that he and Gurgi said farewell. And that is where we will end for tonight. It's going to be a different journey for Taran. A more serious journey of learning what it means to be a hero, a man, a mortal being. Sometimes we have to take these journeys where we lose everything to gain something more. It's important. It's very important. And if anybody ever does you a kindness, it is always polite and genuinely good to return the favor somehow. Now, without further ado, I wish you all a lovely day. And I'll see you all next time.